We're starting our conversation again. We stepped on Tzadi Hey. We're in the middle of Perek Dalet Mesilat Yesharim. So I just want to we stopped in the middle because we were running short on time. I'm just going to get us back to where we were. The Ramchal was talking about that no one's going to get away from Yom Hadin, and every action that a person does is going to be judged. And then he brought up the point that if that's true, so then what about Midat Rahamim? Isn't Midat Rahamim supposedly, going to, save us or help us along the road? And if that it does, then isn't Midat Adin going to be weakened by the fact? And he talked about the idea that Midat Rahamim doesn't totally erase Midat Adin. It's just giving a person a chance. He said a few things that it does. It delays the sin. And it gives you a chance to make teshuvah. It also doesn't allow the punishment of the sin when it's going to be dished out to totally destroy the person. And the third thing that it does, Midat Rahamim, allows for teshuvah. And he said that teshuvah, which undoes the sin, right, is Rahamim in itself, that we have the opportunity to correct things, because in general, if someone does something in this world, how do you undo it? He brought examples. A person who will kill somebody, how do you unkill somebody? You can't. So how is it that Midat Rahamim doesn't undo the Midat Hadin? So he says that in Hashem's mercy, he decided that when a person shows absolute regret for the action that he did and wishes that it never happened, so then Hashem looks at it as if it never happened. It's sort of the way we go to Hatarat Nedarim. When a person makes Hatarat Nedarim, they go to the rabbi and they express remorse, and therefore when that happens, the rabbi is able to uproot the swear or the vow as if it had never happened. Same thing happens for teshuvah. How does that not damage Midat Hadin? If you tell me I can undo it and now I'm not going to get punished, well, then it does damage Midat Hadin. And the Ramchal explains that it does not, actually, because there's basis for the forgiveness of teshuvah, because the fact that a person, doesn't mean Hashem in His mercy allowed this to happen, that the person's remorse can actually act as if the action never happened. And if the action never happened, then Midat Hadin doesn't have anything to talk about because it never happened. And that's sort of where we left off. So I'm going to pick up right there. So we're on Daf Sadi Hey, and he says like this: V'chen arichut hazman eno vitron alachet. Right, the fact that Hashem allows us to have extra time to make teshuvah is not a weakness of the sin. Ela savlanut ksat, gives a little patience. It gives a chance a person to make the takana, to make the repairs that he needs to do. Or all other types of kindness that Hashem allows for a person to get benefit from actions, even though a person potentially sinned. He gives examples where the Gemara says that a son can actually add zichuyot, add merits to his father. Or miksat nefesh kekola nefesh. Over there, the Gemara is talking about a person that is supposed to be penalized. So Hashem, instead of killing the guy, maybe makes him trip and break his arm. So miksat nefesh, partial damage to the nefesh, is like the full nefesh. That's a mercy of Hashem. He doesn't want to kill the person, so give him a little bit of pain and suffering and wipe out the sin. All those amuskarim b'divrei chachamim, darkei chesed hem lekabel et hamuat kamarbeh. Hashem, in His kindness, allows us to pay back a small price for the big sins. Ach lo mitnagdim umakchishim mamash b'midat hadin. These don't actually contradict or weaken the judgment. Because there is a purpose, there is a reason to count these types of payback for the sin against the Midat Hadin. There is basis with what to allow this to happen, he says. You should know, someone who thinks that sins go unpunished totally without one of these types of teshuvah, that no one's looking at them. That type of of thought would be absolutely against midat hadin. When you think you should be able to do what you want, and there's not going to be anything to pay back later on in the future, that's the one that we say midat hadin is going to wake up. Because then there would be no judgment on this. No one, you're just going to get away with whatever you do, you're going to get away with it. Well, that's a problem. It's impossible for that to happen. There will never be a scenario where a person is going to do something and not have to pay the repercussions. Right? If he does not, assuming he didn't make teshuvah, then Hashem is going to exact from him whatever it is that he has, to pay for that sin. If one of these methods that the person doesn't find a way to get away from this punishment that's pending over him, right, which was the delay, right, or Hashem does he doesn't destroy the person totally, he just exacts with a little bit, or the person makes teshuvah, and if he doesn't do any of those, then vadai midat hadin lo tashuv rekam. There's no way that this attribute of judgment is going to come back without any kind of repercussions. It's not going to happen, and therefore v'chen amru zichronan lebracha ma'arich apeh v'gabe dileh. Hashem is ma'arich apayim, right? He is slow to anger, but at the end, if you don't do what you're supposed to, gavi dileh is going to collect what's due to him. נמצא שאין לאדם הרוצה לפקוח עיניו פיתוי שיכול להתפתות בו. It says, it comes out that a person שאין לאדם הרוצה לפקוח עיניו פיתוי שיכול להתפתות בו, לבלתי יזהר במעשיו בתכלית הזהירות ולדקדק בם תכלית הדקדוק. Therefore, you should keep your eyes open, he says. Don't get, stray. Don't let your eyes stray you. Be careful from all your actions, as careful as you can, right? Betachlit hadiktuk, so exacting, because he says, "Hen ela hashkafot sheshkif alem adam." These are the thoughts or the process, right, that a person should strive to. V'yekneh bahem midat hazehirut. This is the way to acquire zehirut, to think about the punishment is for the masses. That's what we talked about, right? We said so far, for recap, 3 different types of people. The person that wants to do it because he does not feel that he can allow himself to not fulfill his potential, and therefore he wants to be as best as he can. The person that's going to have, going to feel jealous in Olam Haba when he sees someone that's above him. And the third was the person that neither of those two apply to, and which is the masses, he says, and those people, the way for them to acquire zehirut, to be careful in their actions, is to think about the reward and punishment. Vadai im bal nefeshu, he will have, one of those 3 things should get him on the right path. So zehirut was the one we're discussing, being careful in all your actions, and now he's going to, the Ramchal, point out ways or pitfalls along the way that you should avoid to make sure that you'll be able to acquire this attribute. So he says, what's going to cause you to lose zehirut, to cause you to lose this idea of being careful in your actions? He says, Hinei mafsidei hamidah hazot. What are they? Umar chikeh, the ones that push away zehirut. Hem shlosha. There are 3 pitfalls you need to watch out for. Ha'ahad hu tipul v'hatirda ha'olamit. The first one is, this world that Hashem put us in, that we have to live in the world, and we have actions that are required of us in order for us to be able to live. We've got to go to work, and we have to make a living. We have to do all these kind of things to take care of our family, and all that stuff that you get bogged down with. That obviously doesn't leave you time to think, about all your actions. So that's the first one. Tirda ha'olamit, the pressure of this world. Hasheni, shok v'halatzon, lightheadedness, and being a scoffer. Litz is like someone who just likes to make fun of things. Latzon is the action of actually making fun of things that are important. Okay. Hashlishi, the third one, hevra hara'ah. If you're in a bad crowd, if you got a bad crowd, your friends are not on the right path. Very difficult to go against the tide. He's going to address all 3 of these one at a time. Okay? So the first one that he mentioned was, just the act of going through life on its own. That puts a lot of pressure on people and keeps their minds are preoccupied and doesn't allow them to think, about the bigger picture. When you're inside, you're inside the maze, so you can't see outside the maze. All you see are the walls around you, and that's what life is a lot of times. So he's telling you, Hine, hatipul v'hatirda, right? This dealing with life and the pressures. I mentioned it earlier. He said, Ki bihiyot adam tarud be'inyane olamo, person is busy taking care of his sustenance, his livelihood. Hine machshavotav asurot bizike hamasa. His thoughts are, it's beautiful words. He says, are asur means locked up, bizike, in the chains of masa, of business and things going on. Asher alehem v'yefshar latet lev el ma'aseh. You're not paying attention to the action because you're just in the heat. You're in the moment. You're doing your things that you have to do to keep yourself going. V'achachamim alehem hashalom berotam zot. When the rabbis saw this, they said, heve mema'et be'esek va'asok b'torah, which is a pretty controversial statement. They said the person should try to do less business. I'm going to translate it literally in a minute, and then I'm going to make a different explanation for you. But first, it says, Mema'et be'esek, work less, va'asok ba'torah, and learn more Torah. So that's what the Kavot says. And that's really great. But again, a person needs to work and a person needs to live. And what are you supposed to do with if a guy's an hourly worker, let's say, right? And I only gets paid, for the hours that he works. So how could you tell him that he needs to work less? And that's Opat Torah. So the rabbis are picked up on that, and they say that that you have to understand this in another manner. It means that the income that a person is supposed to make, we know it's katsuv mi Rosh Hashanah v'ad Rosh Hashanah, right? The amount that you're going to make, that's fixed already. It's predetermined. What's not predetermined is the amount of labor that you need to put in to get to that money. No matter how much labor you put in, you're going to get the money, whether you put in more or you put in less. So the idea is over here is you don't need to put in that much because the money's going to come, okay? And you should put less effort in and learn more Torah, because regardless, the money's coming. And I'll tell you a very interesting story that was told about, in the early years of Eretz Israel being built. There was one family that they had the bakery. They were the bakers. Okay, I forgot the name of the family. I'm not sure if it's Angel Bakery or not, but it was a famous story that that they were the bakers and everybody was used to buy from them. They were the only one baker in town. And Baruch Hashem, they had a nice family, and they were wealthy, and they were busy, and they had a lot of workers. And one day, one of the workers decides, he saved up his money. He wants to open a competing business. He's been one of the top workers in the factory, in the bakery, and he opens a bakery, a few blocks away. And the owner of the bakery, when he found out about it, he went to the guy and he tells him, listen, whatever you need to help you grow your business, I want to help you. I'll help you. I'll give you the recipes. I'll help you this. Let me tell you where my suppliers are and how much I paid for it. And let me tell you, tricks along the way so that the baked goods don't get ruined, and how to keep them longer and keep them fresh and how to display them nice. And he starts telling this guy all this stuff to make the business grow. And the guy's children, when he comes home one day, they freak out. They have an intervention. They sit the father down at the table and tell him, Dad, bad enough you don't want to take the guy to a din Torah, right? That he's infringing on your business, which technically you could do. I understand that you don't want to do that. You don't want to open up a mahloket, and you don't want to cause all kinds of. But why do you have to help the guy? Just let him do his thing and fine. And then but you're going there out of your way to make it easier for him to go into competition with you. What are you doing? So the guy in his chokhmah tells him, my children, you don't understand. My income from Hashem is fixed. No matter what anyone does to me, I'm going to get my money. So now the fact that there's going to be less customers in the bakery because some of them are going to go over there means I have to work less. And with me having to work less, still getting the same money, don't you think I should be grateful to this guy that now I don't have to work as hard? So I'm going to teach him the tricks of the trade. So the more that he does, the less I have to do. My money's coming anyway. And that's what happened. The bakery business, his bakery never dropped in sales. The other guy also had business, and he was able to open more time and have time to learn Torah. So that's this idea that's over here, that they're talking about over here, is mima'et be'esek, because when you think that you must work, you must work, yes, you do have to work. I'm not saying you don't have to work, but I am saying that maybe sometimes we don't need to work as much as we think we need to work. Okay. Right? I mean, if you can't just sit home all day and think that the money's going to just come into your bank account. That's not how it works, right? He says, however, the extra work, the overwork, right? It doesn't need to be so big that it takes over your life, that you have nothing else that you can do because you've used up all your time working. It's not the way it's supposed to be. That's why we were obligated to set aside time to study Torah, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to just get yourself in this rat race, and you're never going to get off the wheel that you're spinning around and waste the time for the Torah. Therefore, obligation, stop, jump off the wheel and learn Torah. I already told you, says that Ramchal, right, that the way it's really from the Baraita Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, that Torah brings you to Zehirut. The way to get there, to being careful in your actions, is learning Torah, because without it, Zulata lo yagia elav klal. There is no other way to get you on the path to go in the direction you need to go other than learning Torah. That's what they say, where it says, I lost my place for a second. Velo am haaretz hasid, right? A person who is an am haaretz, right, an unlearned person, an ignoramus, cannot be pious because he just doesn't know how to, and therefore you must stop and make time for Torah. Vizeh ki haborei itbarach shemo shebara yetzer hara ba'adam, right? Hashem created the yetzer hara. He put us in this yetzer hara in us. Shehu shebara haTorah tevalino. He's also the one that created the antidote to the yetzer hara. The antidote to the Yetzer Hara is Torah. Barati Yetzer Hara. Hashem said, I created the Yetzer Hara. Ubarati lo Torah tavlin. I created also the Torah to overpower the Yetzer Hara. Vihine pashutu says it's simple. She'im habore lo bara lemakazo ela refuazo. Okay, the Gemara is telling us there is exactly one antidote to the Yetzer Hara. It is the only antidote that Hashem created to fight the Yetzer Hara. There is no other way a person can be healed, right, from the temptations of the Makkah of the Yetzer Hara. The only way to get away from the Yetzer Hara is Torah. Right? When someone who doesn't think to save himself through learning Torah is making a huge mistake, and he's going to find out at the end of the days, when he goes up to Shamayim, when he dies in his sin because he didn't make teshuvah, because he didn't learn Torah, what kind of massive error he did. Right? We know that temptation sometimes feels very, very powerful. Sometimes without you paying attention, because you've allowed it to start to tempt you, it gets stronger than you, it starts to control you. If you're going to try every trick in the world, right, to try to get away from this Yetzer Hara, but you don't take the medicine that was created to fight the Yetzer Hara, which is the Torah, the person is not going to even realize how weak and how sick he is as his sickness grows. About anybody, that a person is just not going to realize and goes through all of life without any Torah, and at the end of the day is going to, this person is going to pass away without ever learning the Torah that he needs to do to fight off his Yetzer Hara. His neshama is done. It's done. Says the Mahalal, you know what this is like? A person sick, it doesn't feel well. He goes to the doctor. They start running all kinds of tests. They see what's going on with this guy. What's the story? You know what? After the tests come back and they sit down. Oh, diagnosis. We know what's wrong with you. No problem. Thank God, it's something we can treat. Here, Take this medicine, come back in a week, we'll check on you. Vihu, this guy now, who has this medicine and the diagnosis, right? He's not a doctor at all. He has no idea about medicines or anything like that. What does he do? He says, nah, this medicine, I don't want this medicine. I'm going to take a different medicine. I'll go to the pharmacy. I don't care what they told me. I'll pick something else. Now, this person, right, who has this sickness, does take the proper medicine. Okay, we know what's going to happen to him. It says, this is the same as a person who does not learn Torah to fight off his Yetzer Hara. Ki en mi shemakir, right, beholi hayetzer hara ubekocho hamutba bo ela bor'o shebera'o. Who is the one that knows the power of the Yetzer Hara and also knows the weakness of the Yetzer Hara? Who knows? Only the one who created the Yetzer Hara, which is Hashem. Vehu is hiranu sharefuahi Torah. Right? Hashem told us. Listen, you don't have to guess. You don't need to wait for a diagnosis. I'm telling you that what's going to fight off this Yetzer Hara is Torah. You think anyone's going to be able to say, oh, no, I don't need Torah. I'll take something else. I'll beat the Yetzer Hara. What's going to happen is materialism is going to come and overpower this person. Midarga ahar darga, one level after the other. Vehu lo yavin, he's not going to understand. Ad shimatzeh shakua bara'a verachok min ha'emet herchek gadol. He's not going to. He says he's going to hit at rock bottom. He's just going to keep going far away, keep going far, and he's never going to see the truth. She'afilu hirhure devarim lo ya'alu alibo levakesh ha'emet. He's not even going to have thoughts that maybe I'm not on the right path. It gets so dark down that road that he's on that it's impossible for him to even think about doing anything else. Im osek batorah, right? However, if he starts learning Torah, bir'oto deracheha, and we see the pathways of Torah, sivuyeha, its commandments, azharoteha, its warnings. Hine sof sof, at the end, me'elav yithadesh bo hitorerut, he's going to wake up inside of him. Sheyavi'eu el haderech hatov. It has the power to do that, no matter how dark, right? Kiner mitzvah v'torah or. Torah is the light. The mitzvah is a little candle. It starts to grow, and as you do more and more and more, and you learn Torah, now you have or. Now you can wake up from that slumber that you've been in. V'hu ma she'amru zichronam levracha, right? That which what the rabbis tell us. Halevai Hashem. This is Hashem talking, right? Kivyachol Hashem says, Halevai oti azevu. It would be okay if they just turn away from me, says Hashem. But Torati shamaru. They learn my Torah. Shamaor sheba. Because the light of the Torah will eventually bring them back to the right path. So says the Ramchal. He says, well, included in what I'm saying now is that someone needs to sit down and figure out, right, how much time they're going to be dedicating to their work versus the amount of time they're going to be dedicating towards learning Torah. Even if I dedicated certain amount of hours a day to work, and I get to work, and you know what? Today it was quiet, or you know what? Today it wasn't quiet, but I got it all done, and I still have time left over from the time that I've allotted to work. Well, I should just waste my time now and play, I don't know, one of those video games or something because, I don't know, Netflix or whatever the story is, because this is time that's allotted to work. So it's work hours. And then if I don't have work, so I can waste the time now. No, he grabbed that extra time. Use the time, right, to improve yourself. Meaning, learn Torah, open a book, leave a book on your desk in the office. Something happens and you're bored, you're quiet, whatever, pick it up. He said this stumbling block of zehirut, which is the one of the way of the world that we have to engage in this world, that we have to learn, and we have to work, and we have to earn a living. He says this one, it's very general. It's the easiest of the three to avoid this pitfall. because you could just train yourself little by little of amount of time I'm going to dedicate towards Torah, amount of time I'm going to dedicate towards whatever the other things that I need to do in my life. And a person who's organized can set himself up very nicely, and that's all his obligation is, to set aside a specific amount of time to learn Torah. Okay, and if he does that, so then he's got himself away from this pitfall. He's away from that one. He's got to deal with the other two. All right. So how we doing? It's 54. Okay, we have a few minutes. Let's go. He says, chasheni. The second one, that's a little bit harder now. He says, hu kashe me'od. Hu has-sechok v'halatzon, which I defined sechok before as a person who takes things lightly, right? And the letz is the scoffer, the guy who makes fun of things. So something that is important that you take lightly, you think it's not a big deal, right? And the other side, something that is important and that you make fun of. He says, kimi shetovea bam, who kimi shetovea b'yam hagadol. Someone who's stuck in this pitfall is like drowning in the Atlantic. Shekashe me'od limalet mimenu, very difficult to come out of. Kine hasechok hu me'abed et lev ha'adam, right? It weakens the person's heart, or a person, it takes away from the person's heart. Ad shekvar en ha'ta'am v'hade'ah moshelet bo, right? Logic starts to fall out the window. If I disregard things that are urgent, so that's illogical. It doesn't make sense. It's an urgent matter that needs to be attended to, and I just disregard it. That's a problem, right? And it's sort of taking away your dot, right? You don't allow your logic to dictate your actions. Like you're drunk, or shoteh, someone who's mejnun, not normal. Asher I efshar latet lahem orma. You can't give them any direction or any smart things to teach them. They can't listen. A shoteh, right, or a shikor. The shikor guy is totally mastul. Well, you tell him walk straight line. Walk straight line. How is he walking a straight line? He's drunk, right? V'hu she'amar Shlomo HaMelech alav hashalom lashok amarti meholal v'lesimcha ma zo aso. Okay, what does that mean now? Lashok amarti meholal sounds like it's a praise, right? So look at the explanation. He says, amarti, he says, ke'anote lashok shehu meholal. Klomar, shehu natun b'matzav shel holelut. Not meholal milashon happiness, holelut milashon nonsense. Shehu hefech hade'ah ve'achokma. It's the opposite of logic and knowledge, is this holelut, right? V'lesimcha ma ze osa, right? Again, this is a reference to the simcha over here that he's talking about. Lesimcha kazo, this type, because obviously it's a mitzvah to be happy following the mitzvot of the Torah. This type of simcha that he's talking about is simcha of nonsense. Okay, v'chachamim zichronam lebracha amru schok v'kalut rosh, right? So being lightheaded, and taking things, lightly, margilim et ha'adam la'avira. That causes a person to sin. And over here it was talking about arayot, okay? Illicit relations. Everybody knows that illicit relations is a serious problem. Right? Everyone has in their mind this fear, that they've drawn for themselves, that how dangerous, or how large the punishment for some kind of illicit relation sin is. If I said, it's not a big deal, it's all right, no problem, right? Then little by little, it'll chip away at that fear that you have of that sin. It's going to bring you closer and closer, all right? The fear starts going, madriga, pushes you a little closer, little by little, chipping away. Person will get eventually lo aleinu to that sin, and he's not going to be able, because now all the barriers have been broken down. Why? Because he treated it lightly, okay? And the Yitzhara took advantage of that and played with his mind. B'chol kach lama. Why so much? Just like we say, right, to be exacting and careful with your actions means that you need to pay attention to your actions. And how could you be careful with your actions if you're not paying attention to what you're doing? Al-ken kol atzmo shel hasechok eno ela mesir min halev machshavot hayashrut ve'inyanot v'nimsa shelo yavo hirurei yirah belibo klal. So that means the opposite of zehirut is chok, right? Being so careful with everything I do versus saying, nothing matters. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's no big deal. I treat it lightly. So doing that will take away the zehirut, like he's explained to us. And so we've come to the end of our session for today. Hope everybody's enjoying Be'ezrat Hashem, and we'll see you again next week, again at 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Hatzlacha, Kol Tuv, Shabbat Tov. Wishing everybody all the best.